5 years of 2018 to 2022. How much is our public debt today, Mr. President?
Our public debt is in the region of 8.8 trillion, close to 9 trillion. That's where we are. And so that you can contextualize this, it is the reason why, if you look at this budget, I have made a deliberate, conscious decision. In fact, against the advice of IMF. IMF actually wanted us to borrow slightly more. I told them no. I told them no, we're not borrowing. And that is why, if you look at the fiscal deficit, the money we are borrowing, we have reduced it from 1.1 trillion last year to 630 billion this year. We have reduced almost 500 billion because I am conscious that we are not in a good place. I am also aware what is happening to other countries. There are countries in our continent that have defaulted in their payments. When I am president, Kenya will not go that route. And that is why, even when, many people thought it was a joke, I told them, we are not borrowing beyond where we are.
So how much are you planning to borrow in this year?
That is why, Latif, you saw there was a delay of salaries for about 2-3 days, in April.
Yep. Yes.
Because, some characters thought that I was joking. I told them, listen, we are going to live within our means. Even if we have to delay for salaries for 2-3 days, we will. So that people begin to internalize that we cannot continue borrowing. And let me tell you, I have had many people say, you can't tax, there is no country that can tax itself into prosperity. That is correct. Yeah? But you cannot accumulate the debt into bankruptcy as an option. It cannot be an option. Right? And there is a question I want to ask my fellow countrymen and women. Are we overtaxed? That is the question that we need to ask. And I want to answer that question.
Yeah.
Are Kenyans overtaxed? Let me give you the statistics. OECD countries, OECD countries, the tax as a percentage of GDP, the average is 34% of GDP. 34%. You have from Turkey, which is 22% of GDP, to France, which is 45% of GDP. Okay? Let's leave the OECD. Let us come to our continent. Our peers, South Africa, Tunisia, Morocco. They are between 23 and 28% of GDP. Tax as a percentage of GDP. Where is Kenya? Kenya is at 14%. Kenya is at 14%. Meaning, we are paying half in terms of tax what our peers in our continent are paying. And you see, society is reflected by the quality of public goods, roads, hospitals, schools, water. That is what a society is measured. If you will find that if you don't have working schools, if you don't have no running water, if you don't have good roads, you cannot, what kind of society are you? So the big question, and I want to tell my countrymen and women, please, we are not overtaxing ourselves. In fact, if we were to match our peers, my intention is to take this slowly, the way Mwai Kibaki did. When Mwai Kibaki came into office, we were collecting about 220 billion. By the time he was living in 10 years, we were collecting almost $1 trillion. He had moved it 4 times, right?
Yep.
Now we are at 14. If you look at the budget this year, I want to move it from 14 to 16% of GDP. By God's grace, maybe next year, 18, maybe like that.
Yeah.
Because we have to be realistic, you know. If we do not pay taxes, we cannot be like the countries we want to be. We want to be in their shoes. We will be going backwards. So the real cardinal, because, and I want to tell my good friends, you know, it's good to have information. Because I hear many people are saying, oh, you know, we are being overtaxed. The real issue is that our tax as a percentage of GDP, if we manage to get this finance bill through, we will move from 14 to 16.
Before
we will still be way below what our peers are.
I want to